Back like we never left. It's Alex from Double Move Sports. Today I'm getting into running back start sit for week one. I'm going through every single matchup, hitting on every single running back you're considering throwing into your lineup, and telling you whether I like them as a start or a sit for opening weekend. Before I do jump into it, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, check out the quarterback start sit video we posted earlier this week. We'll be getting into wide receivers and tight ends as well. But let's go ahead and jump into this. We've got a lot of games, a lot of players to get through. I'll even throw out my start of the week at the end of the video. But we're starting out with the Thursday night matchup. It's the Cowboys at the Bucs. The over-under in this one's 52, so supposed to be a pretty high-scoring game, at least in Vegas's eyes. And we'll start out with the Cowboys side of the ball because it's pretty easy. Zeke is a start. I know Zach Martin is out on the offensive line. The Bucs run D is actually really, really good. But Zeke, with the volume he should get in a high-powered offense, is still a start for me, especially when you're taking him in the first round. And Tony Pollard is a sit. We'll see what happens with him this season, but until he gets consistent volume when Zeke is active, he is a sit for me. And now we'll move over to the Bucs side of the ball because it's a lot more difficult. And Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, and Giovani Bernard are all sits for me in week one. Now, I know these guys will have their weeks. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if one had a decent game against Dallas, but I just don't know which one that's going to be. Rojo and Fournette each had good stretch runs last season, but now you add Giovani Bernard into the mix. You've got Brady and these weapons at wide receiver, and I just don't know which one I would feel comfortable starting in week one. So if I had to pick one, I'd pick Ronald Jones. I expect him to get the majority of the work on the ground. The upside for him in this game is, who knows, like 100 yards. Maybe he gets into the end zone. But that's, to me, like the max projection. I think the receiving work will be split fairly evenly between Giovani Bernard and Leonard Fournette. Maybe Rojo gets a target or two. But there's just so much work to be shared amongst these three guys. I really want to see how this backfield starts to shake out in 2021 before I start them. So if I can, I'm sitting all three. If I had to pick one, it would be Ronald Jones in this game. But let's go ahead and move on to the Seahawks at the Colts. A 49.5 point over-under in this game, and we'll start out with Seattle because it's pretty easy. You're starting Chris Carson, and you're not starting any other Seattle running back. Rashad Penny, get out of here with that nonsense. On the Colts side of the ball, it's a little more interesting. Jonathan Taylor is a must-start every single week. Marlon Mack, you're still sitting in this game. I don't expect him to get a ton of work. And Raheem Hines is where it kind of gets interesting. I'm trying to sit him in this game if I can. Now, if you're in a deep PPR league and you're desperate, you went 0 running back, I get it. Maybe you have to throw him out there and hope it's one of his pop games, but I'm trying to sit Hines in this game. They've said they want to get him more involved this season. Now with T.Y. Hilton out, maybe they need to get him more involved in this offense, but I'm sitting Hines, if at all possible, in this game, and we'll see how the volume shakes out in this passing game and on the ground. So next we have the Eagles at the Falcons, a 48 point over-under. Two teams kind of expected to be in the bottom half of the league, but they both have some things to be excited about and some potential upside this season if things crack the right way. We'll start with Philly because it's easy. You're starting Miles Sanders. He's going to be the lead dog in this game at running back. And you're sitting Boston Scott. You're sitting all these other guys. Kenny Gainwell, you're not starting any of them. So the Eagles is pretty straightforward. The Falcons defense hasn't been necessarily strong in the past couple of seasons, and they didn't make enough improvements for me to think that's going to change in 2021. But on their side of the ball at running back, you can start Mike Davis in this game. I'm concerned about Mike Davis on the full season, but in week one, with most of the volume to himself, I think you can start him. He should add some value through the passing game as well. So I think he does get enough volume in this game against the Eagles, who have a bottom half defense, in my opinion, to get a start. So Mike Davis is a start. Wayne Gallman is a sit. I'm excited about his potential upside later on in the year. If they really do get him going and they're able to increase their efficiency in the run game. I think he's a bench stash right now, but they just signed him. It's too early to consider starting him. So Wayne Gallman is a sit. And now we'll move over to the Steelers at Buffalo, a 49 point over-under. This should be a really fun game. And it's easy for Pittsburgh. You're starting Najee. You're not starting anybody else. And then on the Buffalo side of the ball, you got Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, who are both clear sits in this game. It's possible one of them could get into the end zone. I think that's the only thing that could save their week because the Steelers do have a top-notch defense. The Buffalo run game was a disaster last season because Josh Allen was balling out. throwing to Diggs, throwing to some of these other guys. So in this game against a strong defense, it's definitely not the time to try to roll out Zach Moss or Singletary. Man, I don't even think I'd want to pick between the two. I would pivot if you were choosing between a Moss or Singletary in a PPR league or something. I would rather have a guy like Nyheim Hines, who I hit on earlier, but they're all sits for me for the sake of it. And surely you don't have one of these guys locked in as an RB2 this early in the year. So I'm sitting them if possible in this matchup. Now we'll move on to the Vikings at the Bengals. It's pretty chalk here because both have bell cow running backs. The over-under in this game is 48 for what it's worth. And Joe Mixon is a start on Cincinnati's side of the ball, and Dalvin Cook's a must start for the Vikings. There's not really any other valuable pieces in these backfields at this point. So Mixon, Cook, smash the start on them. Not much analysis needed. You spent early draft capital on them. I think both could have solid games in week 1. Now we have the 49ers at the Lions. This is interesting, an over-under of 45. I expect the 49ers to dominate this game. We'll start with their running backs. You have Raheem Mostert and Trey Sermon are the two that I'm looking at here. Both are going to be starts for me. I expect the Lions to have a bottom half defense this season. I expect the 49ers to lead in this game. They looked great in the preseason. I don't want to overreact to the preseason, but this offense looked really strong. So Raheem Mostert and Trey Sermon are starts for me. I'm feeling more confident in Mostert for sure as the veteran. But it wouldn't surprise me if you're in a deeper league and you have Trey Sermon. I think he could get some good work in this game even as a rookie. So I'm starting both 49er backs. And then if we flip to the Lions side of the ball, tough matchup against San Francisco. DeAndre Swift is a start for me. I think he could add a lot of value in the receiving game. He should be involved on the ground as well. I know he's been battling the injury concerns, but all signs are pointing towards him playing, and if he's active, I'm starting him. And Jamal Williams is going to be a sit. He could be this change of pace back for Detroit, but against the San Francisco 49ers in week 1, it's just not the time to start Jamal Williams. Next up, we have the Cardinals at the Titans. One of my favorite matchups of the week, 52-point over-under, so a lot of points expected in this one. We'll start with Tennessee. Derrick Henry, auto start, smash start, lock it in. And if we look at Arizona, we have Chase Edmonds and James Conner. Chase Edmonds is a start for me. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think it should be a fun game. Now, Tennessee's defense is much improved compared to last season. They addressed some things in free agency with Bud Dupree in the draft as well. Chase Edmonds, though, is a start because I do think he will add some value through the passing game for the Arizona Cardinals. He's a really good floor play in this matchup. Wouldn't be surprised to see him get 5 receptions in this game. And James Conner is going to be a sit. I don't know how much juice he has left in the tank. I think it will be more of a pass-happy game. So Conner might see 10, 12 touches. I just don't know how valuable those are going to be. He's going to be so touchdown dependent in this matchup that I don't want to bank on that for a guy like James Conner. So Edmonds is a start and Conner is a sit. Next up, we have the Chargers at Washington, and this has a 44.5-point over-under. I outlined some concerns for Herbert in this game. I think he is a fine start if you haven't watched that quarterback video. But with this low of an over-under with two good defenses, like the Chargers defense with Derwin James, Bosa, like these guys are getting healthy. They're going to be a lot better this season. Washington, we know how dominant they were last year as well. So for the running backs, we got Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic for the Washington football team. Gibson is a must-start every single week. McKissic is a sit for me in this game. Vegas has it at 44.5 for the over-under. And that tells me it's expected to be a lower volume game. Fitzpatrick does try to push the ball down the field as well. We're really excited to see what he can do with Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, hopefully a healthy Curtis Samuel. So McKissic is a sit for me. I don't think he's going to see the target share he saw last season. And then for LA, Austin Eckler, must start, especially in these PPR leagues, even half PPR. He's someone I'm rolling out there with confidence. And there's no one else on LA I'm really interested in at this point. So next, we'll move on to the Jets at the Panthers, a 45-point over-under. This is one of those kind of nasty matchups this week that, honestly, for being the Jets and the Panthers, I'm really looking forward to because we get Zach Wilson for the Jets. We get Sam Darnold and Christian McCaffrey back on the Panther side of the ball. So two teams that shouldn't be great, but it should be interesting to see what these teams do in week 1. For the Panthers, you got McCaffrey, must start, not touching on anybody else there. And the Jets is where it gets a lot more interesting. So we've got Michael Carter, Tevin Coleman, and Ty Johnson. Michael Carter is a sit for me this week. I know there was some excitement about him as a rookie. As the season goes on, we could see him get worked into this offense, but all signs have pointed towards Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson being ahead of him in terms of reps. Based on what I'm seeing, based on what I'm hearing, I don't want to put Michael Carter out there when he could be the RB3 in week 1 as a rookie. But Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson are more interesting to me. Tevin Coleman, I'm going to label as a start, and he is officially going to be my deep shot of the week. So deep shot of the week is going to be a guy that you probably wouldn't feel comfortable starting most weeks, but in the right situation, in the right matchup, he's someone you can roll out there. Tevin Coleman is that for me this week. The Panthers defense does not scare me. I think the Jets, with Robert Saleh now coming over from San Francisco in that run scheme, hopefully he brings some of the pieces of Shanahan's offense to the Jets. So Tevin Coleman, coming into the season, I know he's an older veteran, but if he really does come in as the starter, he's someone I'm fine to roll out there if you're in a pinch this week. So Tevin Coleman is a start. And I'm going to label Ty Johnson as a co-deep shot of the week with Tevin Coleman. I think it could be more of a 1-2 split. And if I'm in the most desperate of desperate situations, Ty Johnson is someone I'm willing to start in this matchup. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying like if you have some better options, put Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson in above them. But if they're on your waiver wire, if you're in a deep league, if you drafted early and you had ETN or Dobbins or one of these guys that went down, like you could do a lot worse than these guys in week 1. Maybe some guys to think about in DFS as well. So my code deep shots of the week, Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson for the New York Jets. But let's keep going down the list here. We got the Jaguars at the Texans, a 44.5 point over under in this one. We'll start with Jacksonville. James Robinson is a start. The Texans defense is not good. J-Rob's going to absolutely eat in this game. And Carlos Hyde is a sit. I don't think he's going to get enough work to add fantasy value. So J-Rob is a start. Carlos Hyde's a sit. And then we go to the Texans side of the ball. And no, the Jaguars defense doesn't really scare me. But we've got Phillip Lindsay, Mark Ingram, and David Johnson. And I honestly just have no idea what the Texans are doing. They just brought in Danny Amendola for crying out loud. Like, why aren't they getting their young players on the field if they're trying to do a rebuild? Why aren't they evaluating this young talent? But anyway, Lindsey, Ingram, David Johnson, all sits for me. I just don't know what's happening in Houston. Until we see which one of these guys comes out as the lead back, I'm trying to avoid them. So if you've got them on your bench, I don't think you drop them. Maybe you see what happens, and you're going to know really quickly after week 1 which one of these guys is going to be valuable and which ones are not going to be valuable. So let's go ahead and move on to the Browns at the Chiefs. We've got the highest over-under of the week at 53 points. And it's pretty cut and dry for me. CEH is a start. It looks like he's going to be healthy in this game. He's the only Chief I'm interested in starting at running back. And for the Browns, you got Nick Chubb, who's an auto start, and Kareem Hunt's a start for me in this matchup. I don't think he'll be a start in every single game this year, but most weeks he should be because of this Browns blueprint. But against the Chiefs, there should be some passing downs for Kareem Hunt to get involved. I think he will give you a nice baseline of receptions in this game. So Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are starts for the Browns. And now we have an AFC East matchup between the Dolphins and the Patriots. This one's in New England with a 43.5 point over-under. Mac Jones versus Tua Tagovailoa. And at running back for the Dolphins, we got Myles Gaskin and Malcolm Brown. Myles Gaskin is a start for me in a half PPR or full PPR league. I'm excited to see what he can do in this offense through the air, on the ground. We saw him be really effective last season, so I'm fine rolling out Myles Gaskin as an RB2 this week. And Malcolm Brown is a sit. I know he got some good preseason reps, but he's touchdown or bust, and you can't roll out Malcolm Brown against a strong Patriots defense. For the Patriots, we've got Damien Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and James White. Damien Harris is a start for me. I think the trading of Sony Michel, Mac Jones being named starter, all of these things that have happened in New England have really helped Damien Harris's fantasy football value. So I'm willing to play him in this game. Even though the Dolphins defense is strong, I think with Mac Jones, they will rely on the ground a little bit to ease him in. But with that being said, Ramondre Stevenson is still a sit for me. I know he lit it up in the preseason, but that's preseason. It's a whole new animal once you're out there week 1. So Ramondre is a sit. And James White's a sit as well. J.J. Taylor looked great in the preseason. I don't want to buy too much into that. But between James White, J.J. Taylor, I don't know how that passing downs back role is going to break out. Now, if it's all James White's and we see week 1, James White is that clear passing downs back. He gets 4 or 5 targets. I'm going to be much more willing to flex him and to start him moving forward. But I want to see what happens in this game against the Dolphins. Again, a low over-under. It's not the time to start James White. I think he could add a floor. He's similar to a Raheem Hines for me this week, sitting if possible. But if I'm absolutely forced to in a PPR league, I guess there are some worse options. So Myles Gaskin is a start, Malcolm Brown is a sit, and then for the Pats, Damien Harris is a start with Ramondre and James White as sits. But we're really coming down to the wire here. A couple more matchups to get through. We have the Packers at the Saints. This one's actually at a neutral location, although it's considered a Saints home game. The over-under is 50 in this one, and for New Orleans, like Alvin Kamara is a must start. They just released Latavius Murray. I don't think Tony Jones is a start in this one, so it's only Alvin Kamara in New Orleans. He's a start. And then for Green Bay, you got Aaron Jones, auto start. A.J. Dillon's the interesting name here. I think there will be weeks where you can play him, but against New Orleans, who has a very strong defense, it's not the time for A.J. Dillon. So I'm sitting A.J. Dillon in this one. Couple more here. The Denver Broncos at the New York Giants. The lowest over-under of the week at 42 points. For New York, assuming Saquon Barkley is active, he is a start in this game. If Saquon is active, you're not playing any of the other Giants running backs. Now, if Saquon is inactive and it's like DeAndre Booker or Devontae Booker, excuse me, like against Denver, I'm still pretty iffy on Booker. So if Barkley misses this game and Devontae Booker comes out as the starter, don't just plug him immediately into your lineup. I think he's a sit for me against a strong Denver defense, but let's just hope Saquon's out there to make it nice and easy on us, because Saquon's an auto start every single week. And then on the Broncos side of the ball, we got Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. I'm willing to start both. The Giants defense doesn't scare me at all. The over-under is low, but I think Melvin Gordon and Javonte are going to come out in a pretty even 1-2 split. I'd probably give the edge to Melvin. If I had to start one of these two in this game, I would choose Melvin Gordon. Now, I prefer Javonte in season-long formats. I think he'll get more and more worked in as the season goes along. But Denver already believes in this guy. They've come out and really doubled down on trusting him in the offense. So I think he's going to come out and see significant work early as a rookie. So against New York, I'm willing to start Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Now we got Sunday Night Football. The Bears at the Rams in LA, a 45-point over-under. And for the Bears, I mean, this is a tough matchup for both sides. The Rams and the Bears have pretty good defenses. You got Aaron Donald for the Rams, absolutely wreaking havoc. But David Montgomery is still a start for me. He's going to get volume with Tariq Cohen out. He should see some receiving work as well. So Montgomery is a start. He's a volume play for where you drafted him. He's not someone you can try to get cute and sit against a tough Rams defense. And then for the Rams, it is a little more interesting with Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel. This is a tough one. I'm willing to start Henderson in this game. He should come out as the de facto number one with Sony Michel still getting worked in. So Michel is a sit for me in this game. So with Henderson as a start and Michel as a sit in this game, I think there will be games this season where they're both starts, where they're both sits. Maybe Sony starts to pick it up and takes over as the lead back. I don't know. But for this game, this early in the season, Henderson still should have the advantage and should be the 1A in this backfield. So he's the Rams running back I'm willing to start in this game. Last but not least, we have the Ravens at the Raiders, a 51-point over-under in this game. And for the Ravens, it's Gus Edwards time. I mean, this is a must start. He was close to being my start of the week in a great matchup against Vegas. He's the last man standing. I know they just brought in Le'Veon Bell. I would be surprised if he plays this week. If he does, I don't expect it to be many snaps. So Gus Edwards should see a ton of volume in this one. They should win this game. We'll see. The Raiders could surprise some people this season. But Gus Edwards is an auto start. And then on the Raiders side of the ball, you got Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake. And Josh Jacobs is a start. I'm tempering expectations because of the matchup, but I still think Josh Jacobs should be fine in this game and on the full season. Even if he loses some efficiency, even if he loses a tiny, tiny bit of volume to Kenyon Drake. I mean, this was still a top 10 running back last season. He still should get volume. He still gives you touchdown upside. So Josh Jacobs is a start, and Kenyon Drake is a sit in this game. As the backup to Josh Jacobs, we still don't know what his role is going to be. We don't know how much volume he's going to get. So if I can sit Kenyon Drake, I'm definitely doing so in this Monday night matchup. And before I wrap up, I got to get into my start of the week. I mentioned it was close to being Gus Edwards, but my start of the week in week 1, this is someone that I'm doubling down on with confidence to get into your lineup, and I expect him to significantly outperform his expectation, is Raheem Mostert for the 49ers in that matchup against the Lions. If he sees 15 carries in this game, it could be an absolute explosion against a weak Detroit run D. So Raheem Mostert, if you've got him, start him with confidence in week 1. But that's going to do it for this video. Again, hit that like and subscribe button. Drop in the comments any other start-sit questions you have. I'm going to try to get into receivers and tight ends through the rest of this week. Also, if you've got questions for me, for Stef, my co-host, join our Discord channel. It's in the link below. And that's where Stef and I are hanging out, answering start-sit questions, trade questions, player questions, anything you have fantasy football related, dynasty fantasy football related. Join us in the Discord, ask, and we're going to get you an answer. So that is in the link below. It's been an absolute blast. We're like 150 strong in there. If you're already in there, you know who you are. Shout out to you. But again, this is Alex from Double Move Sports, and we'll see you next time.